So I saw this movie called ATM. It came out in 2012. It's a horror thriller film, and I think that's a really good way of saying that film. And it's the film centers on three people trapped in an ATM booth by a psychopathic hooded figure. Now, this movie, when I first saw it, it looked like a B movie, and there was a lot of these movies coming around this time because in my eyes, there was an '80s revival during this time period that lasted for a while. For instance, I saw another good movie back in 2008 called The Midnight Meat Train, and that kind of had a midnight, showing kind of thing. It was like, let me see if I'm looking at it right now. Distributed. It was distributed by Lionsgate, but I could remember that there was this idea of like showing this movie at midnight or something. Anyway, in ATM, you got these three characters. They're like all stockbrokers. There's two guys and a girl, and they get stuck one night going to the ATM machine. It's like this room. I never seen it before in my life, except in this movie. It's a room in the middle of a parking lot, and they get stuck in there. They get trapped because there's a guy in a parka that looks menacing, and they finally know he's a crazy guy is when he randomly kills a pedestrian walking his dog with his bare hands. If you want to know what happens in the end, basically, Josh Peck's characters die. He dies from his wounds. He gets stabbed because when he was running away in the parking lot, he hit a wire and it knocked him down. He didn't see it. It was like he just didn't see it, and it gave him enough time for the psychopath to stab him. Then when when they had a chance to escape, his friends came to help him. The girl was like, "Let's go to the street," and then the guy says, "No, let's go back into the ATM." As they're going back to the ATM, the guy who's kind of doing something in the back of the ATM room, when he makes his way, he falls down. In order to him to not do that again, he pushes his car against the doorway. Then he starts flooding the place. That's what he was doing. He found a pipe or a hose and he starts flooding the place. So the guy and the girl make a fire and they push it up to the sprinkler system, to call the authorities. And when it finally worked, he lost his balance and the girl that was on top of him fell and she hit her head on the table before she hit the floor. When the authorities came, they arrested him for for everyone who died. There was another person who died, was the guy in a parka jacket who was not the killer. He randomly went to get some money and they strangled him to death. What happens in the beginning and the end? The beginning and the end is the same. The killer is working in this workstation. We find out he has a hidden room in a storage facility, and it's like a drawing board with light coming through it, and he has all these blueprints and schematics of these random places, like the ATM parking lot, and then this random place in the middle of the country. It's so weird. And then you have a 10-minute credit sequence with extras that go on for like a minute. It's all these names. Doesn't make sense because the movie was like very minimal. It didn't have a lot of people in it. They had the party and then the ATM, the office party and the ATM. What's worse is that this movie was cold. It was filmed in Canada, and in the movie, the characters had to be in like -degree weather, which is really bad. They didn't bring their coats because they thought they were going to be there, in and out at the ATM. My theory as to why this movie sucked maybe was because it was too '80s. There was an '80s revival going on during this time period, and maybe the people didn't like it. It was too on the money. As far as the characters' thought patterns, their decisions, it could be that they didn't want to fight for their lives. You know what I mean? They're too, I don't want to say cowardly, but they just didn't want to fight. You know what I mean? And so they just kind of accepted their death or something like that. It's really kind of strange, but that could be a reason. I do recommend this film. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good film. I like it. Yeah, definitely.